Okay, in this tutorial we're going to take a look at something that is very cool called an array. And an array is a data structure. So it's not a data type. A data type would be like integer or double. An array is actually a whole bunch of data sort of stacked up one on top of each other. So we call it the data structure. The code I've got right here declares three numbers, so number 1, number 2, and number 3. But there's a way we can do this a little more efficiently. So for example, let's say I wanted to initialize these things and then put them out to the screen. There'd be a lot of code. Instead, we can use something called an integer. So instead of using integer number 1, number 2, number 3, I'm going to have this integer called numbers, and I'm going to use these square brackets. And this is basically me setting up an array. So this is called an array data structure. And it's sort of like an apartment building. So in this case, I have an apartment building with 5 floors. The first floor is always 0, so that's very important. Arrays start at spot 0. And that's something we're going to, if you get an error saying array subscript out of bounds, that's a situation where you've probably gone out of bounds. Either you went too far, so your apartment building has 5 floors. If it starts at 0, that means there's floors 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. That would be 5 floors. So if you try to reference the 5th floor or the -1 floor, then you'd be out of bounds on that. You wouldn't be able to do that. So then we can do different things with our array. So we can make numbers 1 equal 44. We can make numbers 0 equal 11. We can make numbers 4 equal 77. So we can do different things, and we can put different numbers in our array, and that will work fine. If we ever tried to do something to, let's say, the one on the 5th floor, then we would have a problem with that. So especially when we ran this program. Well, let's try it. Let's try running this. And it's a array index out of bounds exception, 5th floor. And it looks like the line of code is the 25th line. So if we go to 25th line, here we're trying to access the 5th floor. So it kind of tricks people up because we have a 5 in here, but that's how big. So that's how many spots are in your array. And then you can't actually reference spot 5 because it starts at spot 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, that would be 5 spots. And we can do other things as well. So for example, we can make numbers 3 equals numbers at spot 4 plus the numbers at spot 1. And then we can output different things. So I can output numbers at spot 3. So basically, numbers at spot 4 equals 77. Numbers at spot 1 equal 33. So if I then output numbers 3, if I run this, we get 110. So it basically added those two numbers up and stored it into spot numbers 3. Now people wonder, why would I do this? Why would I want to use arrays? Why not just use number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4? A nice thing about this is for outputting. So I can use a nice for loop here. And what I can do very quickly is I can output the entire array to the screen very, very quickly. So if I equals, let me clean this up a little bit here. There we go. If I equals 0, then I will output the numbers at spot 0. Then I will go up by 1, so I will equal 1. Then I'll output the numbers at spot 1, numbers at spot 2, numbers at spot 3, numbers at spot 4. Now there's one or two issues that are going to happen here. When it goes to output the things at spots 2, the number at spot 2, there's actually nothing been initialized. So if I run this, we're going to see that error come up. It actually counts as a value of 0. So nothing's been put into spot 2. So that's spot 0, spot 1, spot 2 has a 0. So instead I'll go back and I'll just make up another line of code here for our numbers at spot 2. Let's say 44. If I run it again, those are all my values. So those are all the values in the array. Now this is an array to 5. You can imagine if you're dealing with thousands and thousands of pieces of data, you could have like 1,000 in here and just run your loop to 999, and then you would output the 1,000 things. So these can be very useful once you're starting to use large chunks of data.